On this episode of Chasing Spring.
This is the first bit of heather we've seen in flower.
Amazingly privileged to be custodians of this staggering land.
When I come down from the hills, I'm always bringing some material with me. These are the floating stones.
So this is the most northern spot we're coming to, isn't it?
This is the northern end of our journey. Yeah. My name is Jeremy Norman. I'm the principal owner of Soho Gym. And before that, I started the world-famous Heaven nightclub.
I'm Derek Frost, and professionally I used to be an interior designer.
I met Derek when he was 25 and I was 29, and we've been together ever since. I heard on the radio someone saying that spring travels up through Britain at the pace of a walking man. And I thought that was an intensely romantic notion.
Every summer, Derek and Jeremy charter Killarney, an 80-foot twin-screw diesel motor yacht. Usually, they cruise the Mediterranean. This journey will be different. They'll start at the very tip of England, which is the Scilly Isles, and from there, they'll go up the Bristol Channel to South Wales. And from South Wales, right around the coast of Wales, across the Irish Sea to Northern Ireland. Then, up the coast of Northern Ireland, right to the very top, to Reitlin Island, and then across to the Mull of Kintyre. They'll then proceed up the Inner Hebrides to Ullapool, taking in all the famous islands, and then from Ullapool to the Outer Hebrides, and from there on to St Kilda. Hopefully, if we make it. Previously on Chasing Spring, Derek and Jeremy witnessed the spring salmon run.
You must be tasting the rain.
Fantastic. Tasting the rain.
Tasting the rain.
That's a great expression.
Braved the wintry moors.
This is for a curved horizon. Some of them have straight lines.
Okay.
Some have. So this would probably be for this one.
Derek got some painting tips.
Okay, so we assume it is.
Sudden adventure.
Rob, it's been really
And Killarney
fun.
said farewell to Rob Common. At anchor back in Ullapool, bad weather prevents Killarney from crossing the Minch. This notoriously dangerous body of water separates the Inner and Outer Hebrides.
I mean, looking outside, it looks like the wind's dropped completely.
It has dropped quite a bit, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, sitting here, like I say, look, after a couple of days, we've had like 42 knots
And
from the
how long does it
southwest.
take for a sea to die down if the wind dies down?
Maybe even a day, you know.
A day, yeah.
I mean, I think we should be looking quite positive for departure tomorrow.
Well, that would give us 24 hours for the sea to come.
Yeah,
by.
exactly.
Great. Well, what we're hoping to do is to have our guests who are flying into Stornoway here just come down the island by taxi to meet us in Loch Tarbert.
Yeah. And obviously we're here at the moment, anchored behind the island of St Martin.
Yeah.
And we'll be making passage across. It's about 55 nautical miles, so we're looking at about a 6-hour passage down into Loch Tarbert.
Do you think there's any chance, because at the moment where we are, I mean, if the wind's coming out of the northwest and we've got this huge hill, the Bulmer Hill ahead of us, we don't really know what's the other side of that yet, do we?
Not really, no. I mean, I think basically we've just got to take our chances, lift the hook. I'll get the weather forecast through when I get it through, see if it's favourable. And, I mean, it'll be a moderate sea regardless.
Which is fine.
Which is fine, you know.
Who was it? Rob made a distinction. He says there's a rough sea, there's a very rough sea, and then there was this other thing which is called high.
High, and then phenomenal.
And what
Very
was
high.
high? If we went across the Minch in high,
Yeah,
what would we experience?
yeah,
Be sunk.
yeah, not good. It could be very, very dangerous for the vessel.
Very dangerous.
Yes.
Is that what high means?
Yes.
Very dangerous
Yeah,
for the vessel.
over 4 metres, 5-6 metre seas.
Really?
Very dangerous
Above
for
the top deck.
cameraman's guts.
Windows blown in.
Really?
Bad day out.
So if we'd gone out yesterday, which obviously we never would have done,
Yeah.
that's the sort of thing that might have happened.
Yeah, and what it says, the information I'm reading up on the Minch, North Minch and the Little Minch, is that because the actual seabed topography is so uneven, can be very, very rough there. That's what they say.
Yeah.
Very
so
rough.
high somewhere else and high here can mean even worse here.
But the thing is, yeah, I mean, from a southwest, okay, you're semi-open, but you will have protection from the island, so you won't have such high seas as regards the heights of swells. But what you'd have is standing seas, very shorter seas, very confused seas, which in itself can be worse than a nice, steady wave period.
Interesting.
With further sailing prevented by the weather, Derek and Jeremy decide to return to their friend Rosanna's estate.
This is called a royal. It is actually more than a royal because it has 13 points. Royal has 12 points. To the left-hand example, which is what we call a pure switch. Two stags fighting. They stop like
They
that.
interlock.
This is a rapier.
Yeah.
It goes into the flank when they're actually fighting and they lock antlers with their heads
Yeah.
down. You see them fighting. This is lethal. This is like a sword.
Yeah.
So they damage the other body of the other stag and then they get gangrene and then they die. If you are out stalking and you see that on the hill, you would spend all day, if not 2 days, looking for that. This is something that you really want to get off the hill. I'm sure most people who own estates up here just feel amazingly privileged to be custodians of this staggering land because it is just so beautiful, and so therefore you try and manage it as best you can. No, the deer, as much as possible, range freely. In fact, one is very happy for them to range freely, and they do range freely because we are, for instance, predominantly a hind forest. It means to say that we have ladies, resident ladies. And I mean, were we to walk out now on the hill, we would see young stags, but we wouldn't see mature stags because they've gone somewhere else for the winter. And they will come back in the rut, which is beginning, and they'll start to come in about September. The main period of stalking is the rut, which pretty much starts around the middle of September and goes on until around the middle of October.
But one of the reasons we're making this trip was to discover from the various people we talked to about their view of the changing environment, global warming, and the arrival of spring.
Certainly it is more extreme, the weather patterns are more extreme. We've had much less snow, we've had severe winds, we've lost, since we've been here, just these crazy, mad, 50 mile or 70 mile an hour gales where we've lost bridges, and last summer we were here. And we had a day which I simply couldn't believe it, when the river went from absolutely nothing to full spate. You could almost hear the waterfall that we walked home the other day. I walked home up this very track wearing some new wellies, which by the time I got home I emptied out about 2 pints of water out of each. It was just so wet you could hardly stand up, and rain and gale. The next day, Mediterranean calm, bright blue sea. You could have been in the Mediterranean, boiling hot sun. I mean, I've often woken up in October and see snow sprinkled on top of that hill, gone over to the other land, and with dread seen snow lurking rather alarming on the top of Ben Morass, and thinking, oh, it's going to be a really cold day today. For the last 8 or 9 years I've never seen that. I'm always here at the same time every year.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Derek and Jeremy continue north by car. Their destination? The northern coast of Scotland, with a stop first at Loch Assynt. The local geography is particularly fascinating. Great thrust plains are apparent in the hillside, testament to the tectonic forces that have pushed one plate of rock over another. The landscape also bears signs of the last ice age, the hills smoothed and rounded, with great valleys scoured out by the passing weight of the ice.
There aren't any whitefish.
No, it's wiped out.
Why do you think that's been allowed to happen?
Just boats getting more and more efficient, and
better electronics and better fish finding gear, and you know, it's highly computerized now, a modern wheelhouse out of a fish boat, you know. They can tell how much tons in a shoal. They're just more and more efficient. They're trying to decommission them. But you know, less boats doesn't mean less catching power these days. Well, if they'd get the trawlers out of it and we could carry on with these things, then it wouldn't be so bad, you know. It's fairly sustainable. If they're hungry, they'll go in. If they're not, like last year, we had a dreadful summer because I don't know what it was. It was up and down the entire west coast. The creels just weren't catching, but the trawlers that go for the prawns, they were catching. So it wasn't that there was a lack of prawns, they just weren't hungry, you know. So we're totally dependent on the prawn being hungry and fit enough to get in a creel, so it's quite,
Yeah. But do you think they're going to ban the trawl? I mean, who they is? Who, you know, the trawlers...
There's talk. Sean, you pass me this next creel. There's talk of, there used to be a 3-mile limit years back. No trawler could work inside 3 miles, but then that got lifted and all the trawlers started working close inshore. Of course, close inshore is where your nursery grounds are for the fish.
I mean, it's short-term greed for long-term
Yes.
poverty, basically,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, poverty of fish, and ultimately the industry will
Yeah,
crash.
yeah. Well, the whole industry won't, because there'll always be some there, you know. And the sea can recover incredibly quickly.
Well,
Can it?
round banks in Canada have not recovered their cod stocks. They banned fish now in the 80s, and the
Right.
stocks have still not recovered. And they think that they never will, because
Wipe
they think
them
they're now below sustainable level.
But what was our friend telling us? He was saying that Norway had a long-term strict policy,
Aye.
you know, and they haven't had all this EU stuff.
Yeah, there is a few countries
The
about.
stocks are
Iceland
great.
is another one, I think.
Another one.
Yeah.
Iceland and Norway have got sustainable fish.
Yes. Yeah. There's a wee hole there, and all they take is mediums and larges in Loch Torridon. You know, so, and they've had
Small
over.
ones.
Hmm?
Small ones can get out.
Yes. Well, the small ones can get out there. You'd be surprised.
Yeah.
You generally just, out of the smaller ones, you just get what's in the creel when you
But
haul
that's
it.
what you want to have happen.
Yeah, but there's no point in us doing it, because right beside our gear there's a great big trawl net
Taking every goddamn
scooping
thing.
everything. So why should we throw back our small and all that sort of stuff just to have them take it?
Right.
So it's kind of, you know, it's self-defeating.
I mean, what's your standard day on a day you go out? What time do you go out?
We leave the pier here at 6. I live in Ullapool, so I'm away from Ullapool at 5:20 in the morning.
Right.
We get back into the pier about 5, and maybe by the time we've landed our prawns and got our boxes for the next day, and that will be away from here by 6.
Why can't we English have some of your prawns?
Because you won't pay enough for them. The Spaniards will pay through the nose for them.
They continue northward. Their destination? Durness, on the far north of the west coast of Scotland. They pause to enjoy the simple beauty of a small freshwater lake.
Look at all those lovely lilies across there.
No, well, they're going to be great when they're out.
The lack of rain has left the water level low, and the streams are just a trickle. Perhaps more signs of global warming.
This is the first bit of heather we've seen in flower, and it's in full flower. It's on a south-facing wall, but we're in Sutherland, right at the very north of Scotland. And we see this lovely rock garden, heather, and the bird's foot trefoil above the yellow flower, which is the eggs and bacon. And you can see that it's a member of the pea family. Here's a sort of pea-like pod that's appeared after the flower. And there's this little flower here, which I haven't yet identified, which is a purple flower we've seen everywhere with thyme-like leaves. and there's some common hawkweed. So we've got a real first here, the first heather we've seen in flower.
The Highland cattle are also making the most of the beautiful spring day.
Go on, lift your head. Lift your head. Switch face. There you go. Yay! Fabulous head, isn't it?
Famous for their shaggy coat and long horns, these docile beasts can weigh in at over 800 kilos when mature.
That's just a lady. You're a lady, aren't you?
Later that afternoon, Derek and Jeremy come across a stunning pink panorama, a field of thrift in full bloom. They stop at Loch Eribol to visit with Danish artist Lottie Glob.
I've always lived out in the country because I love being in the country. I hate cities. I love cities for 2 days, you know, to go to galleries or music or whatever. But after 3 days, I don't like it.
Some of what you're breathing and seeing is in the work.
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
Yes?
Yes.
So it's a direct sort of response to your environment.
Totally. When I come down from the hills, I'm always bringing some material with me, like clay and rocks and so on. And
You put rocks in the books.
I make the pages, and it's got my drawings and my little notes, written notes in it, and I seal it all up, and I fire it and melt it together in the kiln.
Is there some symbolism attached to that idea?
You know, I never planned anything; it just happens.
Yeah, right.
And but yes, I think there's some symbolism whatever I do.
It's earthenware or clay?
No, it's stoneware.
Stoneware.
Well, it's called stoneware. It's fired to very high temperature. It's fired to, I mean, it melts rocks.
Amazing. You've got things in it.
That's rocks, smaller rocks and glass
And also the mix of the clay. You've mixed the clay very roughly.
Yeah.
And is there a danger when you fire it then that these different mixes will split, or you want them to split?
I like them to split.
Yeah.
To a certain extent, if they split properly.
Yeah.
These are the floating stones. I have got 333 floating out in the hill. They're hollow.
They're hollow.
Yeah.
Does that float at the height you like?
Yes.
We were thrilled to see some heather in flower today.
Yes, that's amazing, isn't it? It's very early.
Is it very early?
I think it is early.
Since moving to Loch Eribol in 2004, Lottie has been creating a sculpture garden.
In the winter time, it sort of fills up with water, and then when it freezes over, the tiles are sort of half frozen over. It looks really beautiful. And then in August, it will just be full of flowers.
Taking their leave, they finally make it to the ocean.
So this is the most northern spot we're coming to, isn't it?
This is the northern end of our journey. Yeah. It's quite something to be here.
I'm moving.
It is, and there's nothing but ocean in front of you.
And look at the colour of the sea and the great surf coming, and it's fabulous.
It looks like ice melt.
It's fabulous.
Icy green colour.
Well, my darling, it's very romantic, and it's a great, great achievement, all the way up from the southernmost part of the Mediterranean, and here we are.
Well, I think it's been a renewal for both of us, and for us together as well. A new springtime for us.
Well, that's nice. That's nice. Let's plan on it.
Back on board, and it's time for bed.
Hey Ryan, can you pass me the DVD player?
Shove it up your ass.
What?
That's cues, man. Check that's cues.
Jesus Christ.
I expect the conditions to be not much different than Grassholm, the island when we were there off that. That's what I expect the conditions to be like.
So we better batten down the boat.
Yes, for sure.
Derek and Jeremy welcome new guests and make them climb a mountain.
This piece of Louisian gneiss is one of the oldest rocks known to man. And here it is, having been placed as a standing stone. And it's remained in this in situ for 5,000 years. Quite a thought, really.
And Dimmy hits a snag.
There is a rocks down below. What does it mean? It means that we might cut a rock and we might have a nice time lifting the anchor. That's what it means.